Email is destroying your professional credibility without you realizing it. There's a line that separates professionals from amateurs, and it's often drawn in how we communicate. Some people send messages. Professionals ensure their message is heard, understood, and acted upon. Imagine you're working on a critical project. The deadline is approaching, resources are tight, and every minute counts. You've just discovered a potential game-changing issue that needs to be urgently addressed. So you sit down, carefully craft an email, hit send, and you wait. And wait. And then wait some more. Urgency demands immediate attention, and email simply can't deliver on that front because it is an asynchronous medium. So there's an inherent contradiction when we talk about time-sensitive emails. It's a communication trap that instantly undermines your credibility and makes you look disconnected, or worse, completely out of your depth. So how do you avoid this? I'm going to break down exactly why email is the last tool you should reach for when dealing with time-sensitive issues and give you the right strategies to use instead. Communication is the lifeblood of any successful business, but not all communication channels are created equal. Let me paint you a picture. If a fire were to break out in your office, would you calmly open your email client and start composing a formal letter to emergency services? Of course not. The very notion sounds absurd. And yet, paradoxically, in the professional world, we do exactly that. We treat urgent, time-critical situations like there's some casual correspondence. Imagine needing an immediate decision, or are facing a pressing problem, and instead of picking up the phone or walking over to someone, we craft this elaborate email that will probably sit unread for hours. It's bizarre and, frankly, a bit misguided. Not that we should define urgency in terms of life-threatening emergencies. It's about those times when immediate action can make or break an opportunity, or solve a pressing problem, or prevent a potential crisis. So think about that for a second. Your timely message becomes a digital message in a bottle, bobbing along in someone's inbox. It can sit unread for hours, days even. Meanwhile, the problems compound. Now, I'm not suggesting we abandon email altogether, far from it. Email remains an incredibly powerful tool when used correctly. Its true strength lies in its convenience, its ability to provide detailed information, and its capacity to create a written record of communication. But convenience isn't the same as effectiveness. In fact, let's look at some scenarios besides urgency where email is not the best choice, starting with complexity. If you're dealing with a nuanced or sensitive issue that requires subtle interpretation, email is a minefield. Tone, context, emotional undertones, these are all lost in text and were still misinterpreted. A 5-minute conversation can resolve what might take a dozen email exchanges and which would still leave room for misunderstanding. A second scenario to consider is when an email would likely spark a long chain of responses. A quick phone call or even a basic chat message can resolve in moments what might take hours of email ping pong. Let's consider one more. If you're not confident your message will be read or acted upon, email becomes nothing more than a false sense of communication. It's like shouting out into the void in the hope that someone answers. Because the goal of communication isn't just to send a message, it's to ensure that message is received, understood, and acted upon. Sometimes that means stepping out of our comfort zone, and personal comfort must take a back seat if we want to be effective. For urgent matters, a phone call might be your best bet. A chat message can also work in a pinch, and if you're in the same building, you could just walk over to someone. The method doesn't matter as much as the result, which is ensuring your message cuts through the noise. Although there's something to be said for direct verbal communication. There's this brilliant scene from a British comedy that perfectly captures this absurdity. A character discovers a fire in the office and instead of calling emergency services, he sits down, calmly adjusts his glasses, and begins typing out an unnecessarily formal email. Subject: Fire. Dear Sir / Madam, I'm writing to... And he goes on. If you know the show, give it a shout out down in the comments. This is what I was drawing from earlier with the whole office emergency anecdote. The show uses the juxtaposition of urgency and a completely inappropriate means of communication for humor. But here's the real punchline. This happens all the time in a professional setting. We turn urgent matters into passive ones that are just asking to be ignored. But worst of all, this signals to others something deeper about your competence. It suggests a lack of focus on getting results and a disconnection from the realities of the business world. In a competitive professional landscape, that's a reputation you can't afford. There's a particular, not wholly uncommon practice that's quite telling about a person's professional judgment. It's when a person is known for regularly labeling or contextualizing emails as urgent, which exposes one of two personalities. The first is someone who cannot distinguish between genuine priorities and routine matters, and who is unaware of the unsuitability of email for true urgency. Basically, what we've talked about so far. The second is someone who deliberately tries to manipulate communication channels to serve their needs. For founders and executives, this behavior doesn't just lose you your own credibility, but it erodes it in all leadership in general, making your leadership team less effective to the detriment of your business. All these patterns are noticed by your team, your partners, and your investors. They see someone who lacks the discernment to separate the critical from the merely important. Or worse, they question whether you can be trusted to navigate genuine crises when they inevitably arise, or whether they can trust you at all in general. In leadership, your communication habits form your professional signature. False urgency doesn't convey importance, it broadcasts poor judgment. Here's another scenario that plays out in offices everywhere. We've all done it at some point. I've been guilty of this many times. You send out an urgent email. No response. Yeah, you know what's coming. You send another email. Hi, just wanted to follow up on my earlier email. Gentle reminder. Just checking in. Just bringing this back to the top of your inbox in case it got buried. They say something about doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If you didn't get a reply to your first email, which you shouldn't have sent in the first place, don't double down with another one. And the next time you find yourself about to fire off an urgent email, stop, take a moment and gather your wits. Your business, your team, they're expecting you to communicate with intent. So maybe, just maybe, pick up the phone. And if you want more actionable advice for balancing personal growth with business success, click on the playlist link in the description below and consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.